Chat said, "I never thought it would happen at a wedding, let alone one so close to home. Among people I loved, where everything was supposed to feel safe and real." It was her sister's wedding, a picturesque venue by the lake, the kind of place that felt like it belonged in a storybook. Lanterns floated in glass jars along the path to the altar, their flames flickering in the soft breeze. Strings of golden light hung like constellations between the trees, casting a warm, delicate glow over everything. There was music, laughter, and the heady scent of lilies in bloom. You could almost taste the romance in the air. But sometimes love plays tricks, and trust when cracked feels more fragile than glass. Lena had been acting strange in the weeks leading up to the wedding. I chalked it up to stress. She was the maid of honor. After all, there were dresses to fit, vendors to wrangle, details to fine-tune. But still, the changes in her were subtle and constant. She'd get short with me when I asked harmless questions, particularly when I asked who she was texting. She'd take calls outside, whispering in low tones, only to return with excuses and half smiles. Some nights she didn't come home until late, claiming she was helping her sister with last-minute errands. But she walked through the door distant, worn out, emotionally absent. I told myself not to be suspicious. 5 years of marriage had taught me to trust her, to fight through the doubts, to believe in us. I wanted so badly to believe that this was just a phase, that the tension in her voice wasn't guilt, that the way she avoided my eyes wasn't hiding something. And maybe, in some desperate part of me, I knew, but I swallowed it down. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband. Not then. The morning of the wedding, she left before I did, said she needed to be there early for makeup, prep, and photos. She kissed me in a rush, barely meeting my eyes. She smelled incredible, like vanilla and jasmine and something warmer underneath. And I remember thinking how beautiful she looked in that moment. I told her I'd see her soon. She gave a smile to quick, to thin, then disappeared out the door like she couldn't get away fast enough. I got to the venue about an hour before the ceremony. I greeted her family, hugged her mother, carried boxes like a dutiful husband. I smiled through small talk and tried to ignore the knot twisting tighter in my stomach. When I asked about Lena, her sister waved me off, said she was inside getting ready. But something didn't sit right. I walked around the back of the venue, trying to clear my head. I wasn't snooping, at least that's what I told myself. But when I passed by one of the small cottages tucked behind the main hall, I heard her voice, laughing, light and easy. And then I heard another voice, deeper, male, one I recognized but couldn't quite place until I got closer. My heart started thudding. There was something about the way she laughed that told me it wasn't innocent. I moved slowly, quietly. I didn't want to believe what I was hearing. I didn't want to know. But something in me wouldn't let me walk away. I pulled out my phone and began recording, as if proof would somehow make it less surreal. I pushed. The door opened just a crack, and there she was, Lena, in a pale silk robe that clung to her body like water, perched on the lap of a man I recognized, Nick, her sister's fiance's cousin, the same guy I'd always gotten a weird feeling about, the one she called annoying. The one she swore was harmless. Their mouths were tangled together in something far too familiar. His hands were on her hips, hers in his hair. They weren't nervous or new at this. It was practiced, intimate, real. I didn't feel rage in that moment, just a heavy, paralyzing stillness. I closed the door, backed away, walked like a ghost to my car, sat behind the wheel and watched the video over and over until my chest felt hollow. I didn't crash the wedding. I didn't burst into the ceremony and start a scene. I didn't even cry. I just waited. The ceremony began. The guests smiled and cheered. I smiled too, in the photos. Pretended. I watched Lena walk down the aisle in her gown, radiant and calm, like she hadn't just torn something sacred apart. She hugged me in front of everyone like nothing had happened, like I was still hers. But I wasn't. That night, during the reception when the speeches began, I stood up. Everyone expected something light-hearted, romantic. They expected me to raise a glass to love. But I had something else to say. I took the mic, smiled politely, and said, "Marriage is built on trust." Then I paused, and tonight, I learned mine was broken. The room hushed. Conversations fell away mid-sentence. All eyes turned. I turned to Lena. She was already frozen. Lips parted slightly, as if trying to read what was coming. I want to thank you, Lena, I said, my voice calm, steady, for showing me the truth, even if it came in the worst way imaginable. I pulled out my phone, hit play. The audio wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. The room was silent. Her laughter came first, then his voice, then the unmistakable sound of kissing, the kind you don't recover from. Gasps, chairs shifting. Her mother looked like she'd been slapped. Her sister turned pale. Nick was no longer in his seat. Lena stood motionless, as if her body had turned to stone. I placed the mic back on the table, turned, and walked out into the night. Later, I went home, packed a bag, and left. I blocked her number. I didn't ask questions, didn't wait for apologies, but they came anyway. Texts, emails, phone calls from numbers she thought I wouldn't recognize. She begged, pleaded to meet, said it was a mistake, said it only happened once, that she was confused, overwhelmed, lost in a life she didn't know how to live. She wrote me a letter 8 pages long, said she didn't believe in the fairy tale anymore, that the version of our life she'd helped build felt too perfect, too polished, like she was playing a role she didn't deserve. But I believed in it. I believed in her. I believed in the life we made with all my heart. And in one selfish moment, she set it on fire. Now she wants another chance. But I gave her everything, my trust, my loyalty, my heart. And she gave it to someone else when love was supposed to be celebrated. So no, I won't go back. Not because I hate her, but because I finally understand what love really means. And it starts with loving myself enough to walk away from someone who cheats, lies, and only cries when they're caught. That wedding was the end of us. And for the first time, in a very long time, I can finally breathe.